As you all know, we were planning to do just a informal thing on Wednesday. It was going to be Wednesday or Thursday, but it's looking like the temp is good on Wednesday. The weather is looking better on Wednesday. So this is where it will be, at Willow Park in Woolford. It's a sort of like a water park right in the middle of Woolford, just down the other end of Woolford. And what we'll do is, for those of you who want to come for a walk, we'll meet at 11, and there's a walk that goes from there up to another reservoir up the top and then back down again. And that's about a 50-minute to an hour walk. If you're not healthy and you don't want to do a walk, then meet at 12. We'll be back at Willow Park at 12 and we'll have lunch there. We'll just find a place there somewhere and have lunch. There's a number of trees where we can sit under and have lunch there. There's toilets there and a few other things there.
Would it be unloving to start the walk and go, uh-oh, and then come back? But would that slow people down or confuse people?
Well, I don't know whether you're going to be able to walk with a stick. Because it is a little steep in some areas. It's only 50 metres, like 2 50-metre lengths, so probably a little slippery and steep.
But if we got part way and went, this is a bit much, can you come back?
Sure you can, yeah.
Without being unloving to
Yeah, no, we're not going to keep track of it.
We did that in England. And
we did that in England. It was way too much. Yeah, we're not going to do that again. Yeah. So we just walk up to the top reservoir and walk back down. It's just a nice little walk, and
you're not going far from civilization. Like in England, we were in the wilds.
Yeah.
Here you'll be fine.
Yeah, and it's quite defined.
Just park at the reservoir and wait for you. Walk up the hill, then walk up there, and then drop back down. That's the hard part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Walking up
to the reservoir.
Yeah, it's not very hard though, really.
But you could meet at the reservoir, but it's a short walk, isn't it?
There's only a loop around the reservoir, and then we'd be walking back down. So you'd see us for 10 minutes, unless you want to have a swim there, because it is a swimming spot, the reservoir. So you can have a swim there and then drive back down or walk back down if that's what you'd like to do. And it's going to be, I think they say at the moment, 27 degrees on Wednesday. So
I guess it changes.
Warmish. Is that hot for you or warm? Hot. Okay. For us, that's like lukewarm. Really comfortable.
Come in February.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Come in February.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we'd be the ones uncomfortable.
Is this warm for you?
You reckon?
In February, it'll be freezing.
Here.
He came to Australia.
You guys dress for it, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't like slipping over on the ice, mind you. But,
Yeah, I think I would struggle in February.
yeah.
There would be no walk around reservoir.
No.
No.
There would be, and we
There
go
might be some
skating.
skating.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Skating,
right.
yeah.
Not the reservoir, yeah.
It's actually delightful on a nice day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've obviously been walked in ice storms and other things like that, so pretty slippery on the ice, eh?
When we went to Sweden, it was -20. That was cold.
Yeah.
But you dress for it, don't you?
Just
So
like
you're
that.
all right.
Yeah.
We actually found we were too hot in Sweden, weren't we? Because inside is very heated. And
Yeah, way overheated
Yeah,
actually.
that's
They
right.
heat their insides to, I don't mean their insides of their tummy, the insides of their homes to 23, 24 Celsius. And it's so uncomfortable, particularly at night, sleeping, because we're used to getting our tents down at night to a bit lower than that. And yeah, and it's every night in winter, every night. It's like, yeah, just hot. Every night, finished up sleeping with nothing on, no bed and sheets
And
or
it's not
anything.
fresh air, it's canned air.
Yeah, that's right, because there's a aircon there, and so we ended up opening the window to -20 outside, just to get sort of, yeah. But yeah, so next time we come, we'll talk about this later, but next time we come, it'll probably be October, so for you guys that would be, that's fall, isn't it, or autumn for you?
It's nice, it's nice.
It'll be quite comfortable for you.
it might be cold.
Yeah.
Well, some days are warm and some days are cold.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
It's definitely heading to winter.
Yeah, well, on this trip we went to England. It was their summer when we arrived, of course, but it was 17, and it didn't get much above that either. And we go, oh, a bit nippy, and they go, this is a lovely day.
And we didn't arrive in our shorts. And
This is why I don't trust anyone between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle to tell me what's cold. And particularly when it comes to swimming. What's cold? You guys are all nuts when you go swimming.
You're still scarred from your Canada swimming experience.
And I went swimming over at New Brunswick in the river there and with the guys. That was well, it might have been just in the spring really, but because it was thaw, but there was still ice in the water.
That's cold. That's cold. Polar nipping.
All the extremities freeze under those circumstances. If it's a bit windy outside, it's a lot worse, isn't it? And everybody, it was funny because all these people were swimming and they'd all get out shivering, and then they'd go and start up a fire on the side of the lake and then sit by the fire until they got warm again and then they'd go back in. I understand if you're going to go back in surfing or something, that'd be better.
It's where the term crazy canuck comes from.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I figure you don't have water that much of the year, you've got to maximise the opportunity.
Yeah. Mary went swimming in Austria our last trip in the ice, and it was pretty cool.
It was cold. I liked it.
I'm looking at the ice and going, no, I don't think I'll get you.
Oh, I'd been hiking, so I was really hot.
Unless there's surf, then I'll get in.
Yeah, that's right.
If there's a reason.
You were so you tease all of us who get in the really cold water, but Jesus has swum in the
Southern Ocean.
Yes, the Arctic Ocean most of his life, surfing. It's allowed if it's surfing.
Yes, if it's surfing, it's allowed. I'm sure your surfers here believe the same thing.
Yeah. Jesus once got bitten by a shark in this
That was
water.
a tiny little shark.
It was a little shark. But he didn't even notice because his foot was so numb. He got out and then he's like, oh, I've got all these teeth marks. So when he teases us about getting in cold water,
Well, that's why I don't do it. I got very sharp teeth actually. Yeah, it's like a razor blade cutting through.
there's a lot of sharks in that southern ocean, actually.
Mm.
Big sharks. A lot of surfers.
White pointers, do you have them here?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's where we're going. Willow Park, no sharks there. Very sedate. So we'll be having lunch there, and we'll just have a chat, and we'll probably end about 3-ish or something like that. For those of you planning the rest of your day. On the other side of the board, you notice we've got some domain names. So donate.divinetruth.com is the donation page, our page for donations. Event.divinetruth.com is the page we use for events, and that's in humanities at the moment, but that might change.
But you can subscribe there.
But
so
you can
get an
subscribe there,
update
so
every
when
time.
we put on an event, you know when an event's happening, so that whenever we're travelling, we try to, so you'll know, as soon as we've got the event dates and everything for the next event here, you'll know on that site is where we advertise that.
And we also usually put it on mary.divinetruth.com, don't we?
We do, yeah. So Mary's blog is, which
Well, it's really ours.
we use for updates. That's another place where we normally put, updates. I haven't updated the website for a long time, and mostly because I just haven't had the time to do it. And the trouble is, now because I haven't done it for a long time, there's a lot more to do. So it's sort of becoming a little monster for me to have to work on at some point, which I'm hoping to do this year. So the divinetruth.com website we are updating, but also we're starting to work on a project that we started before our friend Kate died in Australia. She was working on it with me. But once she passed, I really didn't have anybody to help me do it. But now Sai, who's in our audience here, is helping me work on that. So we're hoping that sometime over the next year, or might be a bit longer than that, we'll have a new website with an updated look and also a search engine built into the site so you can search for things, because now we've got so many thousands of things on our site. It's very, very hard to find them, and the way that I've currently listed them is by year, but at the end of the day, if you're a new person, trying to find when did you talk about the human soul, when did you talk about God, it's very hard to find. And so what I'm trying to do is build in a search engine so you can search for a topic and find it on this website, but also that the website can run it completely offline, so you can get a copy of an entire disk from us that runs the entire website and all of the data, which is nearly 4 terabytes now, of data on a disk that you own privately. So that's
And
our
by
goal.
data, you mean the videos,
The videos, the
outlines,
audios,
all of those
documents.
things. Yep.
There's nearly 4 terabytes of it. So you can actually run a local copy of it rather than having to use the net for it. So that's our goal, which is very different to how most people design their website. So that's what we're trying to work on, but it's going to take us some time, and given the fact that myself and Mary do a lot of other things, it's it's great that Sai's now working with me, and he's doing some research with me at the moment for me, so that we can work on firstly the database for the website, but also eventually the website itself. And Kate did a lot of design work for the website with me, so we finished up getting quite a good design for it. Now it's a matter of getting all the data plugged in, which is going to take a little bit of time. So God's Way.net is, God's Way is the organisation in Australia, which is a non-profit that we work with. Mary and I do a lot of work with that. We are the founding members of that organisation, and for some time we were the directors of it as well, but now that we're travelling a lot, the directors are now other people. But that organisation, which has done those programs that you see up the back, just a snapshot of the programs, that's their website. So if you want to keep up to date with what's happening there, they send out, I think it's every month or
Every quarter at the moment.
every quarter they send out updates. And then but in Australia pretty much every day, well, there's 3 or 4 days a week generally, where we've got programs on every week, pretty much in that organisation, where we're doing environmental recovery, projects like the anti-toilet paper project, which is making these. And they're made completely of cotton, recycled. They're from, a lot of it's from, we buy materials from hotels, where they're throwing out their stuff. They change their towels quite frequently and everything, and they throw it all out, and we find them where we know a place in Australia that gets them by the container load, and they make them from that. This went through many, many design changes until we were happy with them, and even the process, I think, is listed up the back.
The process and
of how they were made.
And if you want to make the shift, what it's like, how to do it.
So they're basically a wipe to replace toilet paper, but you don't, of course, you wash it bottom first.
Yeah,
Understand?
Don't
wipe or poo on it. You wipe your bottom first, wash your bottom first, and then just use this to dry it. It's very convenient. And Mira and I use them all the time. This is how we get rid of toilet paper. How we've got rid of toilet paper.
But also they're very well made.
Really well made.
So you can actually use them
double sewn, and then they turn inside out and sewn again.
So they should last.
So they should last a long time. We've tried to design them to last 10 years or more.
And once they're no good anymore, every part of it is biodegradable, so you can throw it in your compost.
Straight in landfill.
Yeah.
There's
But you
no-
can also use these as a face washer, as a processing, there's lots of uses for these.
Yeah.
As a processing hanky kind of thing.
Yeah. So what we've done is we've designed them, shown people how to manufacture them. There's a group of people in Australia now manufacturing them, and we feel that eventually a lot of people will end up probably having them. Yeah, is the goal.
Would anyone, because I know there was some up the back, did everyone get a chance to see them? Yeah.
Who picked up some? Somebody pick up?
Are there any more to purchase here?
Well, that's my next question. If we had have sent more, would you have liked
I would
to?
like to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can get some sent to
Yeah.
Adrian, and
Yeah.
so just contact her if you'd like some and let her know how many. And if you do that in the next week or so, then we can always place an order with Australia and have them send that.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're thinking we'll probably get sent in the future 100 or a couple of hundred
Yeah, to
for
each
every
event.
event. That way people
I didn't really, it was more as a display. I didn't anticipate people just wanting to take them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I understand why, because they're very soft and very well made.
can. Yeah. So there are those. So that's another project that God's Way is running. So all those projects are listed on the site, and our environmental projects, our recovery projects, our building projects. We've got another project that Mayor and I pay for mostly, but it's more of it's a water retention project, because in Australia we have to store our own water in the bush, and collect our own water. So that project is currently underway. At the moment they're doing the foundations for our tanks, and that all of the projects, and we try to also put the designs of everything up there as well as a part of the projects. So that's all in God's Way on there. The Foundation Church of the New Birth is where we got the books from. So that's their website to donate.
Yeah, their website is just without the donate today, and then donate today if you want to actually donate to them.
Yeah, that's for donating to them. Some of you asked about that yesterday. So
And
that's
also, we didn't mention here that we have a project going on in Australia at the moment, which is an edit really of the versions that you have.
of the Padgett
Of
messages.
yes, and in that order, but we're going to just make some small refinements to it, so adding a date for each message. And also you will have seen some of the text is in bold text, not bold, all caps. And we know these days that's sort of like shouting at you. That wasn't the intention, but we're going to change that to bold text. So just make it, modernise it very slightly without changing any of the words. There's also a few typos in there that we'll fix up, but the Foundation Church leaves it, part of their tenets I think I mentioned is to leave it exactly as it was published first, because they feel that that's very important, that things don't get altered over time, as we've seen happen with the Bible and so on. So obviously we have that same spirit, but we just feel there's a few things that can be modernised in terms of the way that the text is presented as well. And so that's a project, there's about 6 volunteers working on that at home actually while we're away. And so hopefully within the next year or so we're going to have publications available that are in that format, still in the same order.
And we're hopeful also of finding a publisher who will do the hardcover for us rather than the soft cover, because that'll make them last a lot longer. I actually have some hardcovers that were actually published in 1953 and I'm still using them, so yeah. So.
And even, I can just see Yvette's copy over there. How long have you had it? It's not that long, is it?
Yeah, like March.
And the edges
Yeah,
get
the
turned
edges.
up and
Yeah. So
So
it's the same with mine as I'm travelling with it, you know, they get a bit worn. So if they were hardcover, it'd be better. And also if you can cover them in some way, that also helps.
Now, if there's any questions, we need to give some micro. Who would like to do this today? Yes, so on this side, you would be, the mic would be here, and side's going to do it on this side.
Are you going to be right with that, Leslie? Buzzing up and down the aisle?
I meant to just
No,
ask
no,
a
but she's not
question.
doing
She
it.
wants to ask you.
That's
Oh,
all right.
so Sandine can do it. then.
Sandine is doing it.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
I just wanted to ask. if-
You have to
No,
hold
put
it.
it on.
You have to-
I just wanted to ask if there's a donation link on the God's Way page.
Yes,
for full-time
yes.
volunteers like you or.
Yes, there is, yeah. Every volunteer in God's Way there's nobody who gets paid by God's Way, including Mary and I. So I do all the tech for God's Way as well as all the tech for Divine Truth. So, but nobody gets paid. So So the way they live is by people donating to them the same way Mary and I live. So particularly the directors of God's Way, all three of them live by people donating to them. Each of them have their own website for a donation, but there's a link to their websites from God's Way. Does that make sense? So if you go to God's Way, donate, you'll find key people that are full-time. It's all the people who are full-time working for God's Way, which they do for free, but people can give them gifts so they can survive and keep doing that. That's at the moment how they get enough income to buy food and everything. Yeah. So there's people around the world who've been doing that for them for a few years now, for many of them. Some of them are still not quite getting enough donations to sort of live on, and so that's going to be a problem for us in the future. But for the ones who are the key people in the organisation, are almost self-sufficient based on donations now. Yeah, Mary and I help them out occasionally from our donations when we know that their funds are getting low. You know. So our general philosophy in God's Way is that nobody is going to get paid from the organisation ever. So all the money that's donated to God's Way directly goes to the projects we're doing, right? Which is very unlike most non-profits, isn't it? Most of them firstly pay everybody who's there, and then of course they, use whatever is left over to do their projects. But in God's Way that won't be the case. In the future we may change it to make sure that some people get a bit of a stipend, because some of the things where people are working behind the scenes and they're not really known, but they're doing full-time work behind the scenes, like producing videos behind the scenes. Obviously those kind of people are going to need to get some support in order to keep doing that.
And there's a lot of administration, isn't there, in running a company? So
Yeah.
at the moment, there's a lot of work that goes into accounting and meeting our legal requirements, and none of that's very glamorous.
No.
So people don't tend to acknowledge that very much, but it's hard work.
Yeah. At the moment, God's Way people have donated to God's Way lots of different things. So we've had a big D6 dozer donated to God's Way. So that's a big 22-ton dozer. A big excavator, a 20-ton excavator, a Komatsu. We've also had a new tractor donated to God's Way, a new tractor trailer. We've also had about $2.4 million worth of property donated to God's Way. And so everything happens through donations with God's Way. Nobody gets anything from it, apart from education.
Yeah, education and opportunity.
It's an educational, it's to educate people in a practical manner about divine truth principles, is the purpose of the organisation. So that's what we're doing in Australia, and obviously that's something we want to eventually replicate in other countries at some point. But of course, everything depends upon the development of the individual, the people. It's taken us nearly 12 years now, I think it is, to get 3 directors who we can trust in God's Way. Right? So that was a 12-year program to make that happen. 10 years, sorry. 10-year program. Started in 2016, where we talked to them about things, their education. Their education began in 2008. And we started doing some things in 2016. Those things didn't work out because there was a lack of people with the proper skills.
In 2016 or earlier, talking about?
In 2016, we started the original God's Way, wasn't it? 2013. Yeah, 2013, sorry. And there wasn't enough people who had enough spiritual development to run it. So Mary and I finished up getting very tired running it. And eventually we closed it down, which is about 2015 or something like that, 16. No. And then there were a group of people who we thought were a bit more developed by 2018 or 17 or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly the dates.
Because you're the numbers man, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember now. But anyway,
it's been a little while.
It's been a long program getting to that stage, as you can see. And we sort of expect it's going to be similar everywhere. It takes that long to get the people who really want to put God first and really want to be humble to their feelings and really get sincere, like we were talking about yesterday. Sincerity takes a long time to develop from God's perspective. To be sincere as God perceives sincerity takes quite some time for people to develop, because on earth there's not a lot of sincerity. And that's the trouble. It's takes a
lot of desired ignorance, isn't it?
Yeah,
What we're talking
a lot of
about.
desired ignorance.
And
As you can
arrogance.
see in your own life yesterday, right? A lot of desired ignorance. And it takes time to overcome these things. You're not going to overcome them instantly, and there's no magical solution to overcoming them. It takes work, and the people who are really dedicated to having a relationship with God do the work. The people who that are not really dedicated to having a relationship with God, just don't do the work. And so it takes time to find the people who are wanting to do that work to the point where we can put our trust in them, where that they will do the right thing in terms of teaching the principles to others. So at this stage, we've got a couple of those people, 3 in Australia, and we put a lot of trust in them while we're away and so forth. We go away for periods of up to 4 or 5 months, and they are able to run everything just as well as if we were there. And we talk to them the entire time we're travelling. We generally try to have a meeting with them once every month or 2 months while we're away, but just generally it's to help them to deal with the problems they face when we're away. So that's what we've been doing, and we'll talk more about that later today for those of you who'd like to do. The plan today is that we do what we said we were going to do yesterday, which is our mediumship with some friends of us today that wanted to come to you and explain to you their experience of becoming sincere. And then what we thought we'd do is we might, that would probably take us to lunchtime. After lunch, I'll just want to just have some final discussion with you for about an hour or so about some principles in terms of like some of the sins you're going to face that are tough to face, and we'll talk about that for a little while. And then what I thought we'd do about 3 o'clock or 3:30 thereabouts is have another break. And those of you who want to leave, or you need to catch flights or whatever, can leave then. And those of you who like to stick around and ask more questions about what we're doing, what our plans are, what our plans for next year are in terms of coming here and things like that. And if you want to stick around for that, then that'll be after 3:30 today. We'll discuss those things with you. Sound all right? Good day. All right, well, let's get firstly started with our discussion with some spirit friends. So what we generally do here, for those of you who haven't had any experience with this, is generally I facilitate and Mary is the medium. Some water. And so generally to try and keep you out of her sight, she closes her eyes.
Just so
She's not distracted more than anything else. And then we just start talking to our friends. And some of them came to us this morning already, so we've already talked to them a little bit because they wanted to tell us, who they were and so forth. So we will talk to them for a while, and then hopefully, in this case, because we're not helping them, because sometimes we do that, in this case, we're hopeful that they're helping you. Right? So because that's the case, we're probably going to open it up to you to ask them questions, if you want to ask them questions. Does that make sense? So we'll do that after they have a chat with us first. Okay.
Hi, thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure.
We're quite a big group of people who've been quite attracted to your discussion over the last few days. My name is Arneault.
Arneault?
Yes.
Yep.
And there's really about 50,000 of us here who have one thing in common.
Yeah.
And that is that we didn't want to deal with the issue of sin or harm of others, or really the morality of our life before we enter the spirit life.
Right.
And so we've had this experience in common. We've all had very different lives, but we have that one experience in common.
Yeah.
And it is a common experience.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of us felt we lived very reasonable, law-abiding lives.
Yeah.
And it was quite shocking when we came here to see, oh, there's
Not law abiding from God's perspective.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And
So, can you tell me a bit about yourself?
sure.
Yeah. So you've been selected as the spokesman, I gather.
I have,
Yeah.
I have. But others may step in
Yeah, yeah,
because
sure.
we, as I said,
We
all
might
have-
ask different questions there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very diverse backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I myself was a pharmacist on Earth.
Okay.
Yes, back in the sort of mid of the last century.
Right. So an early pharmacist.
Yes.
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 Doling out chemicals you didn't really know much about.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And yes, and so
So you were talking mid-50s or?
yes.
Yeah.
And so something that we all have in common, and certainly was the case for myself, was that we all had an inkling, or a number of inklings through our life, that something we weren't doing perhaps the best we could, or
Yeah.
we weren't perhaps doing the right thing.
So what were those inklings when in your pharmacy practice?
Well, for myself, it was around giving people barbiturates,
Yeah.
we would call them, so
Yeah.
things that were to help them calm their nerves.
Yes.
And particularly to women, actually,
Yeah.
in my practice
Yeah.
or my professional life.
Yeah.
And I started to feel
Were they prescribed by doctors?
they were,
Yep.
they were,
So still
And so-
prescribed?
all prescribed.
Yeah.
And so I felt I was just doing my job, or I told myself I was just doing my job.
Yeah.
But actually, inside, I didn't really feel it was right. I
Right.
could see the effect on the people, and I felt that they weren't really present in their lives anymore.
You saw them sort of stepping away emotionally from their life and
And the drugs helped them to do that.
influencing them in different ways that
Yes.
were not good for their lives.
In particular, in the way that they were interacting in the community and with their children.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I really,
So you felt bad about it, sort of things? Or you just had these little tickles of conscience about
Yeah.
it occasionally?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's more correct to say I didn't let myself feel about it.
Right.
I just had fleeting feelings that
Yeah.
perhaps something wasn't quite right.
Yeah. 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 Did
So-
you ever discuss it with anybody when you were on Earth?
No.
No.
I was quite a private person,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I believed in running a tight ship
Yeah.
in my pharmacy,
Yeah.
and I believed in efficiency, and also there was another problem that I had was a feeling of superiority or class division, I suppose, because
Right.
I was the pharmacist and the other people were
They should listen.
employees and they should listen. But what I mean is there wasn't much simpatico between myself and the other staff members.
Good idea.
There was a hierarchy.
Yeah. Yeah. Which back in the 50s was very common in business as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Most
And
businesses.
in my training,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
any kind of medical or professional training.
Yeah. Now, did you have any relationships with the doctors who prescribed these things?
Not really.
Not really.
I knew some of them,
Yeah.
but when you say relationship,
Well,
they
did you
weren't.
have a relationship?
No.
No. So this was more like a professional relationship with the doctors where they would prescribe something. You would then look at the prescription and serve the prescription to the customer, and then occasionally you'd have a little twinge of conscience about it, but you didn't talk to anybody about it and you didn't say much about it. Did we marry?
Yes.
Did you say anything to your partner? No.
No, I didn't think that that was appropriate either.
Right.
It wasn't, I never discussed my professional
Yeah.
life. The only and even then we didn't really draw near it, was with other colleagues of mine who
Yeah.
I might meet.
Yeah.
But even then,
Everyone's
we
too
dif-
embarrassed to say anything about it, probably.
I don't know if embarrassment is the right word,
Yeah.
but we deferred the responsibility to the doctor.
Doctor. Good idea. Yeah. Which is common as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we felt we were part of a system and that we should it was our job to fulfill the prescription.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did.
And did
even
you,
if-
did you ever feed back to the doctor that something's going wrong with that person now?
I really
You
had-
relied on them to do all that. The person, I mean, who was taking the medication.
Well, and it was clear that they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Once they got started,
Yeah,
because it became sort of really addicted to the
That's right.
medication.
dependent.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I just saw the change in the demeanour.
yeah,
Particularly, I was in a small town
yeah,
and relatively small,
Yeah.
so I knew the clients just to see. I never interacted with them directly very much either.
yeah. Which country was this?
At times, here in Canada.
Oh, in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
And so, you know, I just saw the change in demeanour,
Yeah,
the change in their vitality as well.
yeah.
But it wasn't something. Again, we're talking more about it now than I ever did on Earth.
Yeah, yeah. We've already had a longer conversation than you ever had with
Yes,
anybody about
yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah, good. All right.
So in my mind,
Yeah.
I was doing my job.
And doing it right and professionally and correctly and with, obviously you had some passion there, or was it all driven for monetary gain, or,
yeah.
mostly?
Yeah.
So it was a good job in terms of to earn some income.
I think
in that
perhaps
regard.
having spoken to other people here that perhaps if I was more passionate about it, perhaps I would have
Changed it.
questioned
Yeah.
a little more.
Good. Yeah. So when did you pass? What age were you when you passed?
I was relatively young, in my 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I passed relatively recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And when you passed, what was it from? What did you die from?
I had a heart attack.
Had a heart attack.
But of course, this is just my story,
Yeah.
and I'd like to talk to you about what happened when I entered the spirit life, but
Yeah.
also the experience of many others.
And the
here.
others too, yes.
So within this group, there are school teachers,
Okay.
soldiers,
Yeah.
housewives,
Yeah.
or what you would call a housewife.
Yeah.
Many other professions, if you like,
Yeah.
of people who felt that we'd lived a fairly routine, regular life.
And a decent life.
A decent life, and by society standards, we certainly were regarded as quite decent.
Yeah.
And in many cases, were given accolade.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing we all have in common is that there was pangs of conscience, you would call it.
Yes.
Now I know, you
Yeah.
would call it that.
Yeah.
But we didn't take any notice of them, or any significant notice of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when we entered the spirit life, things were initially seemed okay. As you know, when you enter, there's usually someone who welcomes you, or there's a welcoming process, there's
Yeah.
a period of transition.
Yeah.
And
So that'll go swimmingly.
well, yes.
Sort of.
But a lot of fears are allayed in that process.
Of course.
And a lot of feeling of being loved occurs.
Yes.
And then, as you know, things change a little as you become adjusted to living here in the spirit world.
Mm.
There's a period of what I called another transition, which is when I start to recognise where my home was
Yeah.
and what the conditions of my home were,
Yeah.
and recognise
And
that,
that you belong there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Tough.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So where did you belong when you arrived? Did you find?
Well, in quite a sort of colourless place.
Yeah.
It was quite dry. I was living in sort of a very, very basic house, much poorer than the house that I had lived in on Earth.
Yeah. Much smaller.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
everything
with no one else. No one.
dusty and dry, nobody
Nobody
around.
else. Yeah.
Not in a township or anything, really sort of almost in the desert, I suppose you would call it.
But it was dark or
Yes,
semi-dark.
very grey.
Yeah.
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 And so, of course, that was shocking for me.
Yeah.
As it was for many of us who arrived in, some of us in even more difficult circumstances,
Yes.
and some of us in similar ones, although as you come to learn here, your particular surroundings are reflecting parts of your soul condition, parts of your attitudes and emotions. So
Yeah, and it's very confronting sometimes to live in a place that is the exact reflection of how you are inside.
yes, particularly in our cases when we had no desire to know that that was the case.
Yeah.
So relative to myself, it took some time to learn that the dryness of my surroundings was a lot about how emotionally closed I had become in my life on earth, and how almost dry and removed from the pain of people around me I had become.
Hence the sort of loneliness of the position as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And did you have paintings on your walls or anything like that?
Yes, I don't know if you'd call them paintings.
No.
No.
Art.
Yes.
Of a kind.
Yeah.
Reminding you of.
Opportunities that I had missed,
Yeah.
and also situations where I had chosen to judge and exclude others.
Yeah. Yeah. So act out of harmony with love.
Yeah.
They were constant reminders into home.
Yes. Particularly those, so in the first case when I mentioned the opportunities that I had when my conscience had pricked and I had ignored it.
Yeah.
Because they were real opportunities for me to correct my path or correct my actions.
Yeah.
And I had
Didn't take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the second instance of the opportunities, or not really opportunities, but just showing, there was sort of depictions, or they made sense to me anyway, that it was showing my gradual degradation, and I saw scenes of times where I had closed off more from feeling.
Where you had a choice to open or close, and
Yeah.
you closed more. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, this all sounds very extreme. It sounds like I was a very hard, harsh, cold,
Bad person.
bad person.
Yeah.
But actually, most people found me to be a fairly polite, pleasant,
Yeah.
responsible person.
Yeah, and
I
also.
didn't stand out in any way.
Yeah.
My funeral was quite large.
Yeah.
People had decided I was a good man.
Yeah,
Yes.
honoured you. Yeah.
Yes.
So the contrast between your earth life now and what, you know, really in the end is God's opinion,
Yes.
was very different,
Yes.
wasn't it? So the average person on earth usually decorates their home in a way to avoid most of their emotions, don't they, as you now know. And they would never consider decorating their life to remind them of all their corrupt character traits, would they?
No.
But that is what God does for you. Decorates your home in a manner that, well, really it's your soul that does it, as you know. And it decorates your home to remind you of your character traits, yeah.
And I should say I know that,
Yeah.
but a number of other people here, I've been fortunate to progress, which is why I was sort of chosen as the spokesperson, and perhaps that was the wrong thing, but I've been fortunate to progress God's way.
Yeah.
But some
yeah.
people here haven't.
Yeah.
And so their changes have taken a much longer time
Yeah.
than myself.
Can you mention how long?
Oh, so really, I should say that we're all at the point where we acknowledge sin,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Some people call it different things, but
Call it wrong
or harm.
Moral harm.
Yes,
Ethics.
ethical problems within oneself,
Yeah.
things that require correction,
Yeah.
things that are bad,
Yeah.
that kind of terminology, it varies.
Yeah.
And we're all at a point of feeling happy about letting those things go.
Yeah.
So these things are not completely gone from us, for
Yeah.
all of us,
Yeah.
but we feel a sense of eagerness.
To find the next one and let it go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we all feel a lot happier.
Yeah.
We're all in the top of the first sphere now,
Yeah.
and so we're all in quite pleasant surroundings.
Yeah.
And really, we feel quite excited and privileged just to let people know what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only that, oh, this is how things are when you arrive, but also you can get out of it if it turns out to be not what you expected.
Yes, but I'm being reminded by some others who've been here much longer than me.
It's taken a
Yes,
long
but
time.
one of the other men in our group, 1,000 years to reach this point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm probably the youngest, if you like,
Yeah.
and he the oldest
Yeah.
member of the group, or that we measure age now, not from when we were born on earth, but
Yeah.
from when we were entering the spirit life.
Yeah.
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 So
He's
quite
been there
varied.
1,000 years doing
Yes.
this.
To come
To
from
get
the hells to the top.
to
of
the
cliffs.
same place. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And obviously without God
Yeah.
involved in that
Which
process.
makes it much, much harder, doesn't it?
Yes. And all of us have come from various states of denial.
Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of things did you deny now when you look back on it?
Well, for myself,
Yep.
yeah. So I denied my responsibility to love others.
Okay. Yep.
When I was directly responsible for supposedly in aiding in the health and well-being of others,
Yep.
and I denied that I was actually aiding in their physical and emotional
Sort of corruption.
and
Yeah.
degradation. And I gave the example of the barbiturates, but there were
Yeah.
other ways as well that I saw babies being given certain things,
Mhm.
other people. There were certain parts of what we did that I thought were completely effective and reasonable,
Yeah.
that I had to come, that I hadn't even had a conscience pang about, that I've had to come and see were problems.
Yeah.
And then also things that I felt.
And were you around during the thalidomide?
Yes. Yes.
Saga as well?
Yes.
You would have been.
So all of these ways that
Yeah.
pharmaceutical interventions, if we call them that,
Yeah.
have harmed people in recent history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was quite a lot of what I had denied and quite a lot of what I had to deal with. I wanted to deny my responsibility because I felt I'm a part of the system, I'm doing what I'm told,
Yeah.
I'm doing what I'm trained to do.
Yeah.
If I
The
did
doctor
anything
did
else,
it, that kind of
it's
thing.
the doctor's
Yeah.
responsibility. I'm just the person who has to, make sure the dose is quote unquote
Correct.
safe.
Mhm.
And so, yes, I denied a lot of responsibility for my role in the enacting of harm on people's physical and emotional selves.
Yeah.
So that was probably,
So that was one section
yes,
of the problem. And what were the other sections? So that was your professional life that
Yes.
caused these problems.
yes.
What happened in your personal life that caused problems?
Well, this desire to remain an island, I call it now.
Aloof. Should we
Aloof.
call it?
Aloof.
Yeah.
Yes, and to not allow my relationships to interrupt what I call my equilibrium.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of techniques that I used to try to maintain a sense of calm in my life. A sense, I was very good at condescending towards people and telling them that they weren't being reasonable when
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
upset.
Yeah, yeah.
And all of these were actually quite vicious things that I did to other
Yeah.
people.
Making them not trust their feelings anymore.
Yes.
And so forth.
So with my wife and my children, that would, and my other colleagues,
Yeah.
my social,
Your employees.
yes.
Yeah.
I had many ways of trying to keep myself, as I called it, calm,
Yeah.
but really it was to keep myself isolated from any chance of having an emotion that I found scary,
Yeah.
particularly sadness,
Yeah.
but also my desire for control was very impressive.
Yeah. And you were quite proud of that too, weren't you?
Yes.
Like, proud that you could do that. Other people weren't able to do that so much, and
Yes.
look at the mess of their lives. So,
I lived very much in my intellect,
yeah.
and I can see how much that harmed even those conscience pangs that I had
Yeah.
in various situations.
Yeah.
I would escape back into my mind
Yeah.
to control that.
Yeah. So that was your more personal life. Was there also, in amongst your personal life, there was areas that you found that were, also, like in terms of how you dealt with your children versus how you dealt with your wife versus how you dealt with your parents?
Yes. Well, as you know, this process of correction
Yeah.
that we can do with God or without God is such a fine process. So I've mentioned some very broad strokes. But there's other things now that I'm finding in my progression. They're probably the two major things that I feel I have made a lot of headway on.
Yeah.
In terms of having felt
So
about...
professional life and personal life.
Well, no, just those two issues.
Those
in my
two.
Professional
Oh,
life
okay,
and
that's two.
personal life.
Yeah, gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha.
There's many, many
There's
more.
many more, yeah.
But those two areas where I feel I've had to go through a process, starting from justification, denial,
Yeah.
rage then,
Yeah.
when I
When you
realised
there's
that
no way out of it.
a lot of my personal circumstances here were being governed by those issues that I wanted to blame somebody else for or justify,
Yeah.
that I'd be reasonable.
So even just attributing it to yourself was difficult.
Very,
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah.
And I can see now the way that I skipped opportunities in my early life, and I continued and I continued and I continued to skip the opportunities. I really built myself from an island into a fortress
Yeah.
when I could have taken opportunities when I was on earth and saved not only myself a lot of suffering here, but a lot of suffering in the people
Around you.
Yes,
Yeah.
around me.
Yeah. And as well as your own.
And I would have lived longer. A lot
Yep.
of things would have been different for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So yes, I've gone through that denial and justification, the rage,
Yeah.
and then having to feel the regret of what I just said, that I didn't want to know. I didn't
Yeah.
want to know. And so how much that impacted on myself and the people around me.
Yeah.
And that I had then this idea that I had a different choice. That was very, very difficult for me to come to terms with that.
That you were presented with one because you didn't at the time view them as even choices, really. Yeah.
I took so little responsibility for my life on earth,
Yeah.
in terms of my actions and my intentions and my feelings.
Yeah.
And to come to, I have had to go through a process here, and I've been greatly helped.
Yeah.
I wasn't a religious person on earth,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
And so it's been very humbling to have people who love God come and help me to know God,
Yeah.
because that has changed the speed of my progression.
Yeah.
When
Right.
I speak to the others in this group,
Hard.
a lot of hardship. they've
Going
gone
through the same experience over 1,000 years compared to going through it over 50 or so,
Yes.
or
Yes.
70 now for you. Well, when did you pass
No,
actually? You were passed.
it's only 40 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you've been passed. So there's a big difference between those two experiences. The 1,000 years feels so slow and laborious and time consuming and wasted, and there's so many extra pains in that, isn't there?
And yes, coming to feel that I had choices that I wanted to deny,
Yeah.
God really helped me in that process.
Yeah.
And having spoken to the others here, it took them so much longer to understand they had a choice. A lot of what we've suffered as a group is because we denied there was any sin,
Yeah.
and because we denied that we had any other choice but to sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the soldiers here, they felt following orders.
That's right.
For the teachers here, they
Yeah.
felt, well, I needed to get my class under control.
And the system said this is what I can do to do that.
Parents, well, my parents hit me, so I should hit you. All of
Yeah.
these feelings we had that we didn't have a choice. Or for some people here, I was afraid, so I had to do what I did.
Yeah.
I had to look after my family, so it was okay to take corrupt action, or to thieve. These kinds of rationalizations have been the hardest work for those who've done it without God.
Mm-hmm. Because you've got people telling you sometimes if it's without God, but you think it's just their opinion.
Mhm.
What would they know?
Yes.
Yeah. When it's God telling you, it's a bit harder to go like in that road, isn't it?
Yes, and I think because God touches the heart
Yeah.
so directly,
And makes it softer.
it softens.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people who've done it without God are very warm, soft people now, but they didn't have the benefit of that emotional change that really softened their heart.
Yeah.
They had to work for it themselves.
Yeah.
And no human love, even if it was from a very developed spirit, could move them as much as I see that God has helped soften my heart much more quickly.
Yeah, so perhaps if I just flip over our board, because I just would like to refer a bit to the board in the conversation. So really what you're saying, Arneault, is that it took you a long time to even get to the space where you were sincerely ignorant and wanted to know.
Yeah. A lot of arrogance about rationalizing sin, rationalizing my whole life's path.
Yeah.
I had a whole, as most people do, I observe, they have a whole set of rationalizations for why they took the next step in their life, why they did the next thing, and very little desire to be conscious of when that next thing was bad or wrong.
Yeah, or even seeing that the next thing presented was an opportunity to make a different choice.
Yes.
Even. Yeah.
That is quite a, and I think I speak for everyone here, that is an incredibly crushing process to realise, because you do, even with God, you are faced with the amount of times that you had a different choice and you chose the bad path. And for someone who's lived 60 or 70 years or even 25 years, there are so many choices when we're in the condition where we enter the hells, and that is for most people on earth. And there are so many choices we've had to make a loving choice, and we've chosen a wrong one.
To avoid one.
And it hurts even more when we knew it we had that prick of conscience at that time.
So the awareness makes it even more painful.
Because you knew you were so close to taking the other action. You knew
Just a
even
little
then,
shift here and a little shift there, it might have been different.
And so it's about the there's many times when you act in ignorance, and it is, as you called it yesterday, sincere ignorance. But then there's times where life has happened enough that the conscience comes into play, or your own eyes show you there's problems. And then when you keep acting in those same poor decisions, when you look back on those and when you go through the repentance process for those, there's so much more
Sort of pain.
And you have to be careful not to get into sort of self-judgment and attack of yourself, because you think, wow, I was an idiot then. I was
Like
so
if
stupid.
if only I'd made a different choice.
And I could have. It would have just been that one little thing, one little action that I could have taken, and it would have changed so many things.
Very few people on earth feel the pain of regret as they do when they pass. It's a big pain. And I also see now, I'm just beginning now to feel, as I progress, this sense of who I am that's not attached to what my profession was. I'm getting glimpses of that, and I think if I had have been willing to make a stand about what I saw happening to people, challenge the system, or even just disagree with the prescribing doctor, or have a discussion, or make a phone call. Can't you see this is happening to them? That kind of thing.
Talk to the people, talk to the husbands of the women that I was giving these drugs to even, and say, I'm concerned. Who is this doctor? But what's he doing? Why is he prescribing this? Making some noise about it, even. But when I was practicing, doctors were like God, especially in the system that I was in.
And still probably many feel that way, don't they?
But all of those things would have not only helped me to alleviate the suffering that I was a part of inflicting, but I would have at least given people more opportunities to make different choices. But I also would have given myself the chance to know myself better, and to discover who I am beyond being a pharmacist.
Yep.
And yeah.
And also to develop character traits like caring for people and other character traits like that that are very important for your future life in the spirit world, aren't they? Yeah. So you obviously now are in a state where you have a sincere desire to learn, and obviously that sincere desire brought to a large degree God to you in that sense. But do you remember when you sort of changed from having a resistance to learning to having a sincere desire to learn?
You mean when in terms of time?
Yeah, in terms of the time in the spirit world. So obviously at the beginning it was very challenging. You had a lot of resistance, like most people do. You didn't want to face certain things. You didn't want to desire to face things you didn't know about either. Right? That's very common, isn't it? And this is common in your group. But when, for you, did the change happen where you started to want to know? Because now you want to know, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get from not really wanting to know to wanting to know? So wanting to educate yourself.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's in time, it's sort of,
It was
there's
gradual.
no one point.
Yeah.
But I would say 10 years of complete rebellion, suffering, rage.
Yeah.
And this is a short amount of time.
Very short, yeah.
And really, even in that 10 years, the capacity for my ability to endure suffering rather than consider a different option,
It was high.
it was high.
Yeah.
I look back and I think, wow, I was stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of suffering, and I was willing to stay in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I would say it took me about 5 years. It took me about 5 years to begin
Yeah.
to think,
Different option maybe.
oh yeah, or maybe I'm not as pure as I think.
Yeah.
Maybe this is not a
So it was more
glitch
like
in the
having to
system.
come to terms with yourself a bit more.
Yeah.
That caused you to ponder, well, maybe things are not what I think them to be. And now you're approaching that place, like you're sincerely wanting to be, realising your ignorance sincerely.
Yeah, and I don't get what's happening.
And I don't get what's happening. I don't know why this has happened to me. I don't know why I seem to be being punished. Did you sort of feel like you were being punished?
Yeah, unjustly.
Yeah. So why am I being unjustly punished for all this?
And people would come to me, and I would start, and I would say to them, "Listen, this is
Wrong.
something's gone wrong here. This is the life
Sort
I
it
had.
out for me, like-
Why can't I just be somewhere different?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like this." And they would go away,
Yeah.
and that would infuriate me more as well.
Yeah.
They would try to. I can see now they were trying to tell me things.
But you wouldn't hear it because you're in the fight.
Yes.
You're in the fight, the angry fight. Isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah. Similar to when we talk about pets yesterday, lots of people in the angry fight
Yes.
about it,
Yes.
and not wanting to hear any more truth about it.
And also there's this frustration then as you start to enter this perhaps slightly more humble, slightly,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then I would try the facade.
Ah,
The
yes.
facade of sincerity, I guess.
So sort of act like you're
I
sincere.
really want to know, no, tell me more. But internally, I still felt like this is wrong and you got it wrong. And as soon as I explain more to you, you're going to understand that this is not how it should be.
Yeah.
And that didn't work because those feelings were still in me, even though I was saying, oh yes, I do want to know, tell me more about this system I'm in. I
Yeah.
felt like it was another system I was in.
That you just had to understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then my helpers would say, well, you're still fighting, and
Yeah.
that would send me into a lot of rage as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, at this point, at the point you are now, how do you, like, obviously you're a lot happier now than you were then.
Yes.
Even though it's been challenging to become so,
Yes.
you're obviously a lot happier now.
I'm a lot happier.
Yep.
But I shouldn't present the idea that all of my pain is gone.
No.
I know, and it's
There's 5 more spheres, isn't there?
that's right. And I'm being made aware all of the time that I still have many issues in the way I regard women and
Yeah.
the way that I believe a good man lives.
Yeah, yeah.
The way that I think there should be more order
Yeah.
everywhere
Yeah.
and systems, and
Yeah.
that I have still a lot of arrogance. But the main shift that we really wanted to share with your audience was
Mhm.
the fact that we now feel excited for the future. We
Yeah.
now feel faith in that something is better is possible. We
Yeah.
now feel it's the difference between lying in bed in the morning and, to give an example, thinking, oh,
Not
another
wanting to.
day, and bouncing out of bed and going, okay, this is going to be hard work today,
Yeah,
but let's
that's
get
good.
into it.
That's
you know.
good. Yeah.
So even coming to love, I suppose to put it in the words you used yesterday, coming to love that state of ignorance and sincerely
Wanting
recognizing,
to learn as well.
yes,
Yeah.
that learning leads to more happiness, and
Yeah.
repenting leads to more happiness.
Yeah, yeah. So then you start seeking for the areas where you need to repent, don't you?
Yes,
So,
yes.
once you
And
understand.
sometimes it feels bad, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But there's more, just that one shift coming from fighting for the self-righteousness, I suppose in my case, the arrogance,
Yeah.
to coming to recognise, oh no, there's more to learn.
And also that all that, while it seems powerful at the time, it's actually making you more unhappy.
Yeah.
And you start recognising, oh, if I just surrender that process, I will be happier.
Yeah. That's very true. I thought it made me very strong on earth.
Yeah.
My superiority and my stoicism. And now I see what a weakness
Yeah.
it has been for me here.
Yeah.
It's prevented my change.
And as you grow, I feel you come to see how, like, much of a weakness is that, don't you? So each new sphere a person goes through, generally they look back and they go, wow, I didn't even realise that was a part of this as well. You start seeing all the linkages that have happened that have caused you to actually have an unhappy life, really, compared to what it could have been.
Yeah.
And a lack of purpose in life when compared to what it could have been.
Mm.
Yeah. All right, now I was wondering if you want to say anything more before we maybe open it to the audience to ask you some questions about what was going on.
No, that's fine.
No,
Let's
you're
have
good.
some questions.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll help me to explain better
Okay.
than I have been able to already.
I can see I've just neglected to turn some lights on, so I'm going to do that. People can see us a bit better. All right, so who would like to ask? So if we start maybe over at the Olga here, on this side, and on this side, who had their hand up, we go right up the back here. So
I actually would have two questions. One is, what were your biggest regrets when you were on Earth? And what would you recommend us who are still on Earth? Yeah.
yeah.
What to
So
learn?
first one is, what were the biggest regrets?
Yeah.
And second one, what would he recommend for you to do while you're
Yes,
still on Earth?
exactly.
So I've already touched on, I guess, the actions I took professionally and in my personal life. But I would say the biggest regret that I have is that I wanted to be self-reliant on Earth. I didn't want to accept anybody's help, let alone God's. And I can see that that desire had many, many flow-on effects, including the ones that I've mentioned, that created a lot of harm to others, but also to myself. And for those of you on Earth, well, part of the big desire, and I feel inadequate as the spokesman a little, but I'll lean on my friends here, we really want to convey that all of the things you fear about dealing with sin on Earth, firstly, they seem so justified and rationalized, and it seems like your whole life is about the Earth and the interactions you have every day. And when you come to the spirit life, you come to see, wow, that is a tiny part of my experience, and the significance that I placed on that fear has made it so much harder now to deal with what would have been over much more quickly. Does that make sense? Do you want to ask anything more about that?
Could you give practical examples maybe?
Sure. Well, for myself, I felt pain about prescribing the medication to pregnant women and to women in my community. If I had have said, I can't do this, and spoken to every woman who came in and said, I don't feel this is good for you and I think you should be not taking these drugs, I was so afraid that I would lose my professional license, that I would lose the good standing in my community. But the pain of not having done that here is the pain of children with deformities, of women who lost 50 years of their life in a drugged out state. That's an immense amount of pain that I'm still working through. And I was so just afraid to have those conversations. And I've been shown many times that things could have gone very differently to how I feared. One, the women might have just said, I agree, I'm not taking this anymore, and nothing would have happened to me professionally. But even more than that, I might have started a conversation around these problems much sooner than it started, than it eventually happened on Earth. So is that a clear example?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is it's just the little interactions you actually have where it's very important to state the truth, how you feel.
Well, and to seek the truth, and to seek to treat people with kindness and decency, and not rely on the definition of kindness and decency that my arrogance wanted me to maintain.
Or that your profession taught you.
That my profession taught me, that my family even taught me. It was very important for me to develop a sense of those things for myself that would stand me through my life. And in a way, it's a kind of spiritual laziness that many people have, including myself, that we don't do that on Earth. We rely on the current definitions, and we ignore the pangs of conscience and really what our own lives show us where there's problems. And we justify it by saying we're afraid of what will happen. But yes, many things that seem what you call little decisions become very significant in the spirit world. But even those things that I said, I didn't think that that was a little thing to do, to talk to those women. I thought that that was very serious, and I was very afraid of it.
But also many of the things you think are important on Earth
Are not important.
are not important at all. So
When
having the accolades of people, not important at all.
When I think of the amount of emphasis I placed on my profession and my standing in the community, these things are so transient and so meaningless here. And you come to understand that the people in your community, while important, valuable, worthy people, are just as one small subset of people that exist within the spirit world, and on Earth there are so many people, and our emphasis on other people rather than developing those things I said about integrity and my own sense of what is good and right. They shouldn't come into our assessment of those things.
Olga, we're so focused on our Earth life when we're on Earth, to our own detriment frequently, because we worry about it, we think about it all the time, we're concerned about it all the time, and we make so many fear-based compromises just because of that. Yeah.
And that's my biggest regrets. I speak for everyone here. The knowledge that we discounted so many opportunities to do better.
So it would be good to think always about the life after. Where it would lead you.
Yes.
Well, not just your life after though.
I would say that I would have lived a better life had I have not honoured fear in my life on Earth. I would have led a better, happier life. I would have lived a longer life on Earth, and I would have had more meaningful relationships. So I wouldn't say always to be preoccupied with the spirit life, because the lessons you learn in the spirit life you can learn on earth, and that will improve your life on earth.
But you do have to plan for it. You're going to go there eventually, right? So you do need to start planning for it. Really, as soon as a person's born here, they need to be taught how to start planning for the next bit of their life. Because this one here, although 70 or 80 years might feel a long time when you're 10, when you're 80, it doesn't feel very long anymore, and you're just about to make the transition into the next life. And if you're not educated at all about the next life and what's going to govern it, then can you see you're going to arrive with the same shock that many of our friends here arrived?
And all of the habits and the routines and the patterns and all of the things that you get into in your earth life to reinforce the current actions you take and to obscure your sin, you think by the time you're 60 or 70 on earth that it's just impossible to undo. But trust me, when you enter the spirit life, you still have to undo them. So.
Yep. Okay, so up to back.
Thank you so much.
I feel like you may have talked to this already, but I was wondering about if you felt magnified feelings of guilt when you passed?
When I felt more guilt after I passed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say I didn't experience guilt for quite some time. I experienced magnified sense of feeling when I passed.
Of injustice.
Yes, but the initial thing was, this is an injustice and I'm very angry. I would say that, I was more detuned from my conscience, from the conscience when I passed, than I was in, say, my 30s on earth, which is really when I had a lot of opportunities to take different choices relating to the examples that I've given. So my feelings of guilt, which I really feel more feelings of guilt now as I work through various things. And I would say that all feelings are more intense here, which is beneficial, but often feels very traumatic for a person like me when they first pass, who's used to keeping feelings under control a lot.
Yeah. Okay, on this side, if we go across to Hillary. Sorry, and on this side, who is that? It should come down to
my question, I'm wondering if you have any advice for myself, and I'm sure many others here who are very stuck in my mind, like intellectually, mulling over every little detail of every little decision and thought, and
so a lot of worry.
Yeah, right. Wondering if you have advice as to start trusting, how we can move more into the emotion, and because I think there's a lot of fear of trust of the emotion, and if it is even my emotion, or if where it's coming from, and
yeah, it's a good question. I think for yourself and many others, as you say, the dominant feeling that you're fighting at the moment is fear. And so that's why you feel intellectual and worried and not trusting, and sometimes attracting other people, other spirits, ideas and feelings, because you're so, you're feeling very frightened just to be yourself and just to have your feelings. So the very first thing that I would recommend is to work on, ask God to help you to become sensitive to your fear and to stop judging your fear. When you have a very intellectual background, such as I did on earth, not dissimilar to yourself actually, in terms of our training, if you like, and how we've trained ourselves to be mind dominant, that and put our worth in our mind dominance. When I was faced with having to feel my fear for the first time, it felt like a very alien thing. You're doing a bit better in that it's not so alien to you at the moment, so you have the opportunity to do a lot of things that I had to do here while you're on earth. So I would focus on fear, because it's really you're saying that you're afraid to trust what you're experiencing, but I would say you're still fighting your experience at this point.
Can I add to that? I notice a lot of people worry a lot about their lives, but the thing they don't worry about very much is whether they're loving or not, whether they're practicing love to themselves or to others. There's very little concern about that. So if you're a person who's worrying all the time, my suggestion would be to stop worrying about all the other things and focus on worrying about what love would do.
It's the one thing we mainly neglect on earth, isn't it?
It is, yeah. This will help you greatly, even if you do it on an intellectual level initially. This will help you greatly to make wise decisions that eventually will cause you to feel things. What you're doing at the moment, and this is what a lot of people I notice doing when they're in their heads a lot of worrying a lot, they are worried about how bad things will go in their life, but not concerned very much about what love would do in the moment. Like, you've got to, in the beginning of this process, what will help you to a large degree is to start focusing on the question, what would love do here? What would love of myself do here? I'm stressed out. What would love of myself do here? I'm not caring about this person and that person. What would love of them do here? What would I change to make sure these things can be changed? And that automatically brings up emotions then. Now, of course, fear is going to stop you from feeling those emotions, but you're better off in a state of heightened fear and worry about love than you are about worrying about anything else, right? And this can help you greatly have the breakthrough into actually doing the things you need to do to love yourself better and love others better, right? And by doing, you will find your fears very rapidly. So in the case of Arneault here, if he had had a conversation with the women that he prescribed medication to, his fear about losing his license would have gone higher, right? And then the higher it is, the more it becomes conscious to you in the moment. Do you understand? The higher your fear becomes, the more you become conscious what your fear is about. If you're numbing your fear out and you're pushing it down all the time, what's happening is you're not conscious about what it's about. And so that makes it harder. So by him not having the discussion, the loving thing would have been to have the discussion with the women. By not having the discussion with the women, he was managing his fear about his profession, right? Getting in trouble about his profession. Now,
lots of fears.
And lots of other fears too, of course. I'm just giving an example. But he's, if he had chosen to love the woman in the moment and just be honest with her and tell her the truth, this is not working for you, this is bad, something's going wrong here, at least consider that in your decisions to use this medication. If he'd at least done that, his own fear would have been heightened about maybe people getting his license in trouble, you know. That woman reporting him to authorities and saying, you know, my pharmacist is encouraging me to do the opposite of what my doctor is encouraging me to do. And then, of course, it might have drawn him into an argument with the doctor. And then if he had done the loving thing there, he says, look, I've seen the result of what's happening to these women. I see it's going on. You don't get to see it so much, but I see it in their day-to-day life. They come in, they're different every day. Every time they come to get the new prescription, they're worse than they were last time, not better. So, and if he had the argument with the doctor, can we do something different here? You know, then his fear about having a confrontation with the doctor would have also increased for a bit, but then he would have to deal with it because he's having the confrontation. Does that make sense? Because he's doing the loving thing, right? And this is what I see most people do on earth. They say, I'm going to feel, and even people who hear Divine Truth, they say, I'm going to feel my emotions first, and then after that I'll feel better about doing the loving thing. And I'm going, no, you're not even going to find the loving thing doing it that way. But what's the loving thing is, if you know what the loving thing is to do right now, and you even think, even if you're wrong, you're better off doing it, and trying to take some action that you are resisting that because of fear. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'd recommend do what he suggested about your fear, but also focus on love in the moment, each moment, including for yourself, love of self in the moment too. Like, you're tired and exhausted, right? Love of self dictates you need a rest. So you're afraid of taking a rest. But if you take the rest, all of your fears about taking a rest will come up. And this will it'll expose to you why you're so afraid about looking after yourself and taking a rest. Does that make sense? Yeah.
You mentioned that you had to, your denial of your sins took 10 years. So was there a specific event or instance that triggered you to face your sins?
I would say that I'm still in the process of facing my sins, but the fight for my own arrogance and my own view of things took 10 years. I would say the instance was more, I went through many different phases within that phase, if you like.
In the fighting phase.
In the fighting phase. I tried lots of things. I became very sullen at certain times. I became very overtly rageful at other times.
So sulky,
yes.
And then in the rage later.
Yes. I tried the facade of doing the right thing. But it was really at a time where I was in a sullen phase, actually. And I very gratefully, somebody came. I was out trying to make a garden in this terrible wasteland, really, where I was living, and I was trying to make a garden thinking that, well, maybe I just needed to do something, but I was very angry, and of course it wasn't working, and someone came and sat beside me, and I didn't want to talk to them, so they watched me for a period of time, and I was so angry, I wouldn't even really acknowledge that they were there, and eventually I sat down on the ground, and I started to really attack them because my garden wasn't working. And it's a very dear friend of mine, a very kind man, called Noel, and he turned to me and he said, "When are you going to stop fighting? When?" And that's all he said, and then he left. And I lay on the ground. I lay on the ground for, I don't know how long, a long time. And that was probably the moment where I thought, wow, okay, I have to change something more than my facade. I have to change the way I keep fueling my rage. And then after I finished laying down, I guess you'd call it like through the night, even though there's not really a night. It was very dark, but it felt like, a long, dark night, if you like, with the soul. And when I eventually got up, he came back and we started to talk. So there's a lot of help here for everyone, but I see that help being knocked back a lot on the earth, because the same help is available to everyone, of course, on earth, but many people choose to ignore it.
Can I have a second question?
Sure.
You mentioned that you were not religious here.
Closer with the microphone.
Sorry. You mentioned that you were not religious here on earth. So did your not being religious help you progress faster compared to your other friends there that are more religious?
I think it helped me. I do think it helped me. I don't know that all of my friends here who've had religious backgrounds necessarily feel that their religion held them back or their religious beliefs. But what I do notice is that because I had very little developed ideas about God, I was far more open to just being educated about God. Noel educated me, started that very next day.
So Arneault really had a sincere ignorance about God that
Yes.
he could recognise at least.
Yes.
That a lot of people who are religious don't have.
No, they have the desire for a certain concept of God. The only people who are probably helped through that religious background is if they've had a sincere connection with God when they're on earth. that helps them to let go of a lot of beliefs when they enter the spirit world. That's just my experience.
And bear in mind, everybody's experience is very different. Even amongst the group,
Yes.
everyone's
Very.
experience is very different. Let's go, yes, to, we got, yeah, if we go there, yes, thank you, just next one. And down the front here too.
Thank you for joining us. My question is kind of piggybacking the first question that was asked about your rights, and your answer was, one of your answers was being self-reliant. Given my history and my life, I tend to be self-reliant. I live alone. I like to control, I guess, everything, not everything, but I like order and so on. So can you give us some feedback on why it's bad to be self-reliant?
Well, you've identified a number of things there that your conscience already tells you it's not good. But what I learned about my self-reliance is that, firstly, it blocked. It was a willful and purposeful attempt to block any truth, any other idea or opinion entering my sphere.
Which really challenged you, isn't it?
Yes, yes. But essentially it cut me off from
Everything.
almost everything, yes. And so that was a huge impediment, as you might imagine, in that it made me the island that I call myself. I couldn't learn from, as Jesus so nicely said yesterday, from a higher source. So that's a major impediment. And really a lot of that phase I was talking about where I had to go through all the rage, part of that was giving up this idea that it was good to be self-reliant, good to not let other influences or ideas in. The second thing was that I actually learned or saw, more properly to say, and felt that my desire to control and to be, well, my desire to be self-reliant was a lot about not just controlling my own emotional equilibrium, but also about controlling others. And the effect that I had, particularly on my children, in controlling their self-expression was quite immense, quite extreme, and I'm still working through the pain of that, of suppressing their personality and nature, but I can see that I did that to everyone around me. They had slightly more developed wills than my children, obviously, and so the effect wasn't as great, but it was still very large. And when I was in my self-reliant state, I thought it affected only me, and that it was just my business, and I wanted to make sure that I looked after myself and my situation, and I didn't give any acknowledgement to how much harm I was actually perpetrating against others by trying to affect their will, their choices. So that's just two of the reasons why it's very, very bad.
So your advice is to be also open once you enter the spirit world, and
Not once you enter the spirit world, no.
No, my advice would be to work through the reasons why you desire to be so self-reliant now.
Yeah, if you're closed now, you're going to stay closed in the spirit world. Does that make sense?
And it's, yeah, that's right. And that's what I mean. I had to give it up through a process, which is what you will have to do as well. Whether you do it on earth or in the spirit life, I recommend doing it on earth. As I said, a lot of the pain that we've all experienced collectively as a group is not taking the opportunities we were shown to do it on earth for our various sins. But it's not something where you can say, oh, I'm just going to be open now. I tried that facade. It doesn't work. And you have to really work through emotionally why you desire and love self-reliance.
There's no such thing as an instant change. So if you're in a closed state here where you're quite alone, you like it, when you arrive in the spirit world, you're not going to change. you're going to be in the same flow state and you'll like it. And it's very hard to change something you like. So you're better off starting that as soon as you possibly can, rather than waiting. Because the longer you stay in the place that you like, the longer you will remain in it in the spirit world as well. Because there's so much energy that you've put into that state. By the time you've passed, you're not going to get out of the state for a long time. And this is why some of the people with him took 1,000 years, because they had so much invested energy in their earth life being the way it was, that by the time they arrived in the spirit world, there was no instant change, and they had to confront eventually that it was their energy that was also creating their spirit life in the same manner. You're not going to be instantly open when you pass. Nobody ever is.
No, and all of us here would really like to emphasise that. This idea that you will come to see things more clearly when you pass is a fallacy. Even in the spirit life, I didn't even understand the spirit life. I didn't see clearly my situation and why I was in it until I desired education, and I had to give up self-reliance in order to receive that education. So the only change, as Jesus so often says, I've heard him say it in my visitations, if you like, that the only change is that you know that you are not dead. But even then, some of us here
thought they were.
Thought that we were, or thought that
some quasi-intermediate thing.
There's people here who thought that it was that their spirit life was a delirium from their coma, and so the recognition of passing did happen for many of us, but even that is not a given, depending upon your beliefs and your stubbornness about about truth, about receiving truth.
Mm.
So it's very important that everyone understand that there's no magical difference.
No instant change. Never. Even on earth, there's a lot of people spiritually who say, oh, I had an instant change. No instant change. They've just had an overcloaking of the spirit or some other thing that they instantly decided they were going to do and they did it. But no instant change in terms of their soul.
Condition.
Yep. Never happens. Never will happen, because change needs to be sincere, and that takes time. Yeah. We come down to...
I had a question about repentance process and what that was like for you, and what does it feel like, especially after, I guess, that moment of anger and into your garden, but then like being open to learn and then working with God, and I guess just I'm interested in more details of that repentance process.
Sure. What I've learned so far is that repentance is a state that I reach, and it's something that unless I've reached that state, whatever I direct at God, I don't receive alleviation of the sin. And so when I'm dealing with the sin, or when I'm coming to understand my sin, there's a lot of
stages, shall we call them?
Stages that I go through, starting from a very sort of what I would call a hazy awareness of what the problem is. And it requires quite a lot of my intention and seeking, if you like, to come to feel exactly what the problem is. And I come to a point where I feel in a very refined state. I guess I could use the analogy of sharpening a point, because it does feel like it's pricking you as well. It's quite painful as you get to the pointy end of understanding what you've done wrong and what the problem is. And in that process of repentance, I've come to see a lot of things about love. Very often on earth, and for myself, I viewed love as something that happened between two people, or really two people. or from me to another person. And as I'm going through these repentance processes, I come to see that love, when I break a law of love, I'm coming to learn these laws, when I've been unloving in my emotions and against the law, that has affected the conditions for so many people, not just the person I directly interacted with. So I've come to understand that the importance of how I use my will, either in or out of harmony with love, has far-reaching impacts and for generations. And part of the repentance process, I find every time that I go through that, I come to feel even more acutely how my use of my decisions and my choices and my state of love or lack of love has affected not just the people I was interacting with, but many, many other people and myself in relation to God and how God views me. So I know that's kind of a lot of words, but it's very difficult to describe how the refinement happens not just in relation to the single sin, but in the understanding of love. And as I reach that point, that's when God starts to become involved, and God is helping me in that process through receiving love from her, but also in the receipt of that love, that it gives me even more clear vision on what love is and how I was outside of love in that process.
So you say diligence, it was required in terms of learning.
Yes, and far more than I initially thought.
Yeah.
And
It's
actually,
not like studying at university.
no, you can't cram.
No.
No. It has to be a constant desire that grows in relation to each sin, that it gets stronger. Not that you have, often I see on earth, as I've started to observe people experimenting with these things, is that there might be a sudden burst, often related to a conscience pain, where there's a sudden burst of remorse or awareness of a sin, but that dissipates. And
Because every person doesn't want to keep it in the forefront. They
That's
want to
right.
suppress it.
So even if it remains a little in the background, it's not what I experience in repentance is that it might start with a sudden burst of conscience or awareness, but then I must grow that intention to know more and more, and to understand and to feel and to seek education. And it's expanding, not a sudden burst that gets smaller.
You desire to seek more information about it, truthful information about it. That's when you're sincere. You want to know, because you know that every sin, you get to the stage where you trust that every sin has caused you and others pain, and even your current position is a result of every sin. So you once you understand that, you're now seeking to solve your sin, and so you keep it in front of you. And once that attitude is developed fully towards God, there's all this information comes at you, all this truth comes at you, to the point where you get the real point of why that sin was so bad. And you start to feel that was really bad. And then by this stage, you're starting to feel like, now I know what I've got to repent for. Now it feels bad, and this problem is so big. I know now what I'm going to have to repent for. And now, when you involve God, now the sincere asking for God's love to help you through the process of repentance is sincere, and so you will receive.
But there's like many stages before even that you get to that point. It sounds like so you start, and then it's not like, oh, okay, now I've got it. It's over and over and over, and it's a long.
Well,
I wouldn't call it over and over. In my experience, it's more like increasing and increasing and increasing. My knowledge and awareness and my desire has to keep increasing, to know and to correct and to understand and to see. And so it's not like a falling off a bike. It's more like getting more and more and more. Sort of like wanting it more and more and more, not like a off-on, which is often what a lot of people on earth do as well. They have the sudden pain and think, I have to, there's something wrong, God, what did I do? And then they sort of drop it for a while and get distracted, and then it happens again. it's not like that. It's when
Yeah.
I became sincere and happy in this process, it's like a swelling. It's a swelling tide until I reached the culmination by seeing so many things and feeling I'm very sorry for those things. And then God really, I feel God's love and I feel the shift in myself, and then I feel even more awareness at that point of what was wrong and how it could have been better and how I would do it again differently.
Yeah. In fact, if you are going over and over and over the same sort of experience with it, it means you're closed to truth about it. And you need more truth in that. And the reason why you're regurgitating over and over and over is because you're afraid to find more truth about it. If you're going over and over and over, and then you take that to God and say, I'm going over and over, this is torturous and everything, no response from God means that you're not sincere yet. And this is why a lot of people go over and over and over and over for years and years and years and years, and then they give up, because they go over and over and over and over because they're not sincere yet, and also they give up because they're not sincere yet.
One of the women here, Bernie, she just stepped forward. She a lot of her repentance so far has been around her treatment of her children, and she was just telling me the example of she used to get angry at her children when she was raising them. She'd fly into these tempers that were actually very frightening for her kids, and often storm around the house or slam the fridge and yell at them. And she would feel at those times, she would often go into her room and even cry and feel, this is bad, I'm doing something wrong. And then she would do it again the next week or in a month's time. And she would be in this cycle of realizing there's something wrong, I need to fix it. But she never, part of her major regrets now is that she never took the time to discover more. She didn't stay with the feeling of, I need to fix this. She let it subside, and that's why it kept repeating in her life.
So anytime any experience is keeping on going over and over and repeating in your life, you know that it's just because you're not humble enough yet, and you're not seeking, you're not truly, sincerely desirous of more information about it. Yeah. God will give you the information when you're truly desirous of receiving it. And this happens everywhere, on earth as well as the spirit world. So if you find yourself in these cycles where nothing's really changing, it's because you're not really wanting to have the truth about it yet.
But when you started to have the desire, there's still an incremental increasing that one feels.
Correct,
That's
and
sort of
even an
what I'm
incremental
thinking
increasing of your desire to get more truth.
Yes.
That happens too. When you begin, you hardly got a desire at all. Somebody, like you remember in Arneault's case, his friend Noel came along and said, when are you going to stop fighting? But it's obvious that it should have been obvious to Arneault by this stage that he was fighting all the time. But it wasn't that obvious yet because he had a very hazy view of what he was doing. But when somebody comes along and just says, you need to stop fighting, or when are you going to stop fighting, and asks you the question, then there's like, oh, maybe I could stop fighting. I never thought of that. You know, that was the beginning, if you like. So you could say that's the beginning of the desire. But then he had to have conversations, find more truth, discover what's really going on. He had to sort of find out more and more and more. And each time he wanted to have another conversation and wanted to find out more, that's him exercising a sincere desire to know, a sincere desire to learn. And that's a part of this growth towards repentance. You need to do all of these steps before you will become repentant.
Yeah, I would say it was an increase in desire to know, an increase in awareness as a result, and then actually an increase in pain that I was feeling, which a lot of people don't want to know, but that does happen because as I became more aware, I became more conscious of the pain that I had created and the pain that was existing in me as a result of those actions. And then also the willingness even, wasn't it, to feel the pain even and still go ahead and further, still keep
know more.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. To not let that stop me.
Yeah.
And during this process, when God is with you, and I guess God is encouraging you, you're feeling that encouragement too.
No, I wouldn't say I feel encouraged by God. I think I have a lot of faith now that God desires me to go through that process and that God will meet me in that process without being too abstract. I've been told I have a tendency to be a little abstract, but that God will, I know it's my responsibility.
That God will match your desire, though.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's what I mean. God will match my desire. It's not that
So you've got
God
a little
will,
desire, or God will match it with a little bit of help?
Yes, yes. It can't be that God will go 80% of the way and I will come 20%. It's a matching. Yes.
And this is where a lot of us end up floundering in our progress, because we're taught on earth now, and particularly the new generations of children are taught tiny little desire and you get these huge rewards. And that's not the case in God's universe.
Yeah, and also I feel God is not, the word encouraging is wrong, because, and not to...
God's not an inspirational speaker.
Yes. God is...
That's why I'm not Tony Robbins.
Yeah, God is very sensitive to my state, is what I've come to feel and learn. And so, and God's not feeling, like I don't feel now that God is responsible for creating a different state within myself.
Or creating the desire in you even. Yeah.
No. And I can see that that would be impossible now.
Given free will.
Yes, yeah.
The desire has to come from within you. Remember yesterday I emphasised that to you over and over again. It comes from within you. You're the one who's going to have to entertain the possibility of a desire getting rewarded, and then you're going to have to increase your desire to the point where God can match that desire by rewarding the desire. The laws all reward the desire based upon how intense it is, how passionate it is. And this is a very important principle to understand with regard to your sin too. If you do not have a desire to deal with your sin, then God's going to match that with no desire to forgive you.
I have faith that God loves me now, and I have faith that God is pleased when I have a desire. I feel God is not neither responsible nor my adversary in this process.
Okay, Paul. Just so then, at what point would you say then would you start to feel forgiveness? God's forgiveness.
In that sort of that final process that I mentioned, where I feel
Of repentance.
Yep, where I feel very, very aware, like, of what I've done, that there's a lot of feeling that of pain about that, and that I will...
And the pain and suffering at that point becomes at its pinnacle.
Yes, it's at the...
It's at the highest point. Yeah.
Yep, and then as I feel God's love, I feel God's forgiveness. And I also feel God's truth on the matter even more strongly. Until that point, I'm seeking God's truth about the matter very strongly. But when I receive God's love, I feel it's shown to me in even more clarity. And I feel God's forgiveness for the thing. Of course, after that point, I still have desires to repair the effects of what I've done. So it's not that I feel now absolved of any responsibility for the effects of what's happened. I just can feel that that state within me that caused me to behave or react or believe in that way is now gone.
So so you have this build-up of desire, which includes the subsequent attachment emotionally with the build-up of pain. So you have the build-up of desire, and of course, to get over the next pain, you're going to have a strong desire. And you have this build-up of desire that occurs to the point where you're at the pinnacle of knowing the pain that you've caused others and yourself. And once you're at that point, you usually want to pray. If you know about God, you want to pray, and your prayer is really sincere. And at that point, God's love comes to you, and it's an instant process, that part, where God's love comes at you and removes the cause, the actual reason why you chose to do those bad things that you've been working on. Removes the cause, but all of the effects of what you did are still left. He can remove the cause in you, but how can he remove all the effects without the will of others being involved? He can't. Because there's all these people you influence, there's all these people you harm, and they all have their own will to store that harm, and they all have their own will to work through different things. All you can now do is now that you're in the state where you're fully repentant and the cause within you is gone, now it becomes, you get some clarity also about how can I help those people I hurt? What can I do?
It's not driven from the desire to alleviate the pain of what I've done anymore.
No, because there's no pain. You don't have any pain, but you really want to alleviate the hurt as a part of the personal responsibility of reparation, which is a part of the repentance process.
So receiving the truth increases the pain.
Yep, for initially, yes. The more truthful you become about your sin, the more you're aware of it. Therefore, the more you're aware of it, there's an increase of the pain that you feel about it because you're becoming more aware. This is why you don't want to be aware, because you don't want to feel the extent of the pain. So naturally it will increase, yes.
And you feel for myself, I feel the disparity between, the truth shows me the disparity between how I am or how I've acted and how I could have been and how I could have acted. Yeah. And that disparity triggers a lot of pain for me.
You could say the contrast between what should have been if I was loving and what I was when I was unloving. That the more truth you get, the more that is such a huge gap that you realise, wow, like this is, and also you see all the results of that gap as well between you being a loving person being compared with if you know, the unlovingness of what you did. You see the gap of it all as well, like the huge contrast between those two positions. That's all a part of the pain you're experiencing. And it is necessary so that you get to the point where you realise this was really bad. Like, much worse than I imagined it was.
That is a very common, I don't know anyone who doesn't have that experience of in that repentance process, feeling many times, oh, this is worse than I thought it was, this is worse than I believed it was, this is worse than I told myself it was. That's a part of that education process that I now desire. To even if I learn it was worse, I still want to know. And I've come to have this feeling that the pain that is exposed in that process was already existing in me. I don't know what Jesus feels about that.
That's correct.
I don't know if my condition is...
The soul is assigned the pain at the time you commit the sin.
Yeah.
So it's already there, it's just you're in denial of it.
It feels more like in this state that I'm in now, it's exposing things rather than giving me pain.
Correct.
I just become increasingly aware of it.
Yeah. Every law you break has a penalty associated with it, and those penalties are all emotional. And all you're doing is shutting down the emotional response to them all. And so you end up becoming number and number and number, and then as you open up to it, you realise, wow, there's so much, but it's all from within you. It's all there stored in your own record, in your own soul. It's not like God's giving you more pain, it's already there and you're just becoming more aware of it. But the experience feels like I'm getting more truth and it's getting more painful. I'm getting more truth and it's getting more painful. But that's only because the truth shines the light on the error. The truth shines the light on the pain. So the more light you have, the more detail you see. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And therefore the more pain you become conscious of, but it was already there in your soul. It's instantly there as soon as you commit the sin. Instantly there.
Thank you.
Now, how are we going? Mary's going with you can go to the toilet. Yes. So what we will do now, maybe, if you're willing to come back, Arneault, We'll maybe continue the questions, but we need to have a short toilet break.
I drink lots of water when I'm
Feel very good. What we're going to do is rather than answer a few more questions because we didn't realise it was so late, what we're going to do is let Arneault just finish off with a few more comments that he would like to make to you, and then we'll break for lunch. Does that sound all right with everyone? And are we waiting for 2 minutes? How many people are we waiting for? One there, couple there. Okay.
I think we thought it was lunch.
Oh,
Just
did they?
texting them.
Well, yeah, we're not going to wait for them if that's the case. All right, so what Arneault wants to do is just make a few more comments to you about the feelings involved, and then rather than answering more of your questions, we'll break for some lunch and then we'll get on with the rest of our program.
Firstly, I wanted to say on behalf of the whole group, thank you very much for having us. And we're trying to gather our feelings and thoughts together to really condense why we wanted to come and why we wanted to speak with you. And it's difficult for us to convey the level of regret that we feel now compared to the weight that we put on the decisions that we could have made that were better on Earth. So we see now, and it's very important to us that we let you know we're not trying to scare you in any way. We don't want to portray that that there's not a redemptive process in the spirit life that you can engage in, that we're all engaged in, and that it is very achievable to progress once you pass, and that pain is not forever. But what we have each of us experienced, all of us who have gathered here to speak to you, is that when we look at our lives on earth, we see there was decisions that we could have made, and many times we knew we could have made better decisions, but we didn't stop long enough to seek the answer to what the better decision would have been, or to develop our own sense of what kindness and goodness and love and truth would have us do in a situation. We didn't even pause long enough to develop that knowledge. And yet if we had, the level of pain and suffering we would have experienced here would have been almost nothing in comparison to what we've had to experience. But also the bigger concern for us is the pain and suffering for people left on earth as a result of our actions that would have been vastly reduced. And so we just want to encourage you to engage with these processes of developing your sincerity and seeking God. For myself, I know the knowledge of God has been one of the most exciting, inspiring journeys of my life. And I see that it can be that way for everyone. And for everyone I know who is in that relationship with God, I see that same joy and excitement. So we cannot emphasize enough the wonderful opportunities that you have now to develop these senses of what is good and kind and loving and truthful, and to make better choices, because those choices will dictate your future for a very, very long time to come.
Well, thanks, Anna. Thanks for popping in with your group. And
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's been educational. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, hearing and feeling the perspective of somebody who's already gone through it. Yeah. And then being able to relate that perspective to you so you can understand it. Yeah. All right, well, what is the time now? It's quarter past, close to, is it? 10 past 1. Should we come back at 1:45? Does that sound all right with everyone? Yeah. So like break now?